I was literally talking to BJ, and I was telling BJ, I said, BJ, they're killing him in the media. Just have him answer the questions. And I saw the stubbornness.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know was the background.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you and for your family to go through all that? Because you were just being Derrick Rose. You were a guy that was just coming off an MVP season that was injured.
Yeah.
But you were given no slack whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a different time in the sports world, period. Now we have the term load management. Like, I don't think that I would have, taken as far as Kawhi, as far as, they're really being cautious about his injury or whatever he has. But if load management would have been around, who knows? I probably would have still been a Chicago Bull by now. But it wasn't around, and I was doing what was best for myself, my family, and around that time I had to think solely for myself.
Mulligan and Haugh, Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. And that was a great interview that Will Perdue did with Derrick Rose yesterday. Will, of course, an analyst for NBC Sports Chicago and a champion. And Will joins us on the El Piemonte Ford hotline. El Piemonte Ford in Melrose Park. Good morning, Will. How are you?
Good morning, Will.
Good morning, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I listened to that draft report. That's kind of one of those pros and cons. Unfortunately, it's going to take you longer to get to work today. But luckily for you, you get to listen to you guys a little bit longer.
Oh, look at that.
You, Will.
That's just the way we wrote it out. Thank you, Will. So help us out. It's fascinating, the Derrick Rose saga, and obviously that was a big story last night with his return yet again. And Luol Deng, that was the retirement of the jersey. So there were a lot of things going on. Load management with Derrick. I don't know that Derrick never suffers an injury with load management. I don't know that maybe people are more forgiving of Derrick's multiple injuries and his kind of difficulty returning. But at some point, that relationship really soured between Derrick and the Bulls. And, by all accounts, you would hear things like different guys would call in on different days to say whether Derrick was going to be there, whether Derrick was going to be able to play. He had a group of people around him that were suspicious of the team, and there was a lot of bad blood by the time he left. I just wonder if he really could have stayed a Bull through all of that, and if his departure would have been inevitable load management or not.
Well, that's the thing we don't know, and that's where, when you think about some guys throughout their career as they've gotten injured and recovered and come back and played, if there would have been a difference. There's the discussion about how serious the injuries are in football now. Do they need to play fewer games? Does the NBA need to play fewer games? It's interesting that if they would have won, the one thing that I always said and was very fortunate to learn, when winning those championships in the early 90s was winning cures all ills. Because I can promise you those championship teams that I was on with the Bulls, we didn't necessarily get along. But the one thing we did do, if you go back and look at the numbers, we were at the top of the list as far as fewest games missed because of injury. But there was a lot of discourse. But at the same time, because we were winning, it really didn't matter. You always wonder if Derrick stays healthy, and maybe they win a championship, and then he gets hurt, if he gets a lot more slack because of the fact that he actually helped this organization win another championship. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And as you talked about, there was a lot of things that went wrong, and I think you're going to have to, point the fingers at a lot of different people, a lot of different reasons. It's not just a one-sided story where everybody can just say, well, that's on Derrick.
It's a great question, and it was a fascinating interview, Will. And I think one thing I came out of it, we've all sort of dissected the Derrick Rose era a lot, but I wasn't quite aware of how, and I had forgotten, your relationship with B.J. Armstrong, Derrick's agent, probably gave you you were privy to a lot of things going on behind the scenes that the rest of us weren't, and it gave you a perspective that maybe the rest of us didn't have. How do you think that shaped your own perception of what went on, and how much did that also add to maybe the trust level that was obvious when you talked to Derrick, because you don't always see that with interviews and him?
Well, I started thinking, because when like I said in my tweet, I walked out of that interview thinking, Derrick's totally changed, and he's grown up and he's a man now. Because as he pointed out in an interview, he was a kid. He didn't really understand how to handle the situation. BJ was giving him some advice, but at the same time, he kind of had to learn on his own. But he became very susceptible of the media early. He, as he said, he felt it was personal, and he kind of he closed the doors, didn't allow you into his world. And even I've learned some things, because as close as BJ and I were when we played together, and the relationship that we had, he still kept up walls a little bit because he was Derrick's agent. He was trying to do what was best for Derrick, and he was allowing Derrick to be Derrick. And I also have wondered over the last 24 hours, as I've seen this interview kind of spread out. I've probably watched it, listened to it again 3 or 4 times. Has he changed? Yes. But have we as a society, have we actually changed more than Derrick? And is it because of the changes that have made? Do we look at him differently because of the resiliency that he's shown, because of what he's been through and how he's handled it and how he's come out of it? And I think it's yes on both parts. And it was interesting to hear him say that he wouldn't really change much. I'm sure he'd rather win a lot of championships, but what he's learned, the person that he's become, and what people don't see, and they've seen a little bit of it over the last 3 weeks because Detroit's been in town twice, but the relationship that he's developed and he has with his son is second to none. And as you walk away from that situation feeling proud, because you say, hey, I've watched this kid grow up because he's younger than us, but at the same time, at 31, he's taught me a few things lately that make you wonder, how did I miss out on that?
Was there there was rumor that they might bring him back in the offseason, and obviously that did not happen. And, I just wonder why that didn't happen. Have you heard anything about why they didn't want him back? I think they've put together, they had a sneaky good kind of offseason. I know it's not reflected right now, but they got a lot of new guys learning to play together. But what that team seems to need is kind of one superstar player. And I don't know that Derrick could still be considered in that category. But if you pop Kawhi into this current Bulls team, you'd have a really good team. But they just aren't getting it done, with terms of the one star.
No, they're not. And Kendall and I always have this discussion. And I think as you guys mentioned at the beginning of this interview, I think there was just, too much baggage as far as how things were handled on both sides of the ball, quite honestly. And I don't know this for a fact, but I just think that the Bulls felt that, maybe because of how things happened and what's happened in the past, that it would be in the best interest of both Derrick and the Chicago Bulls, to not bring him back. Now, I'm not saying that's not going to change. And you always think hindsight is 20/20. And you think because of the struggles that the Bulls have had, 5-10, didn't get off to the start that they wanted, they were able to draft Kobe White, and you don't know that Kobe White's going to be the player that he's become as far as his ability, to knock down shots and to score points. But you do think about, because Derrick's accepted who he is, he's accepted his role, how good would he be with Kobe White? Good would he be showing Kobe White how to play the game as a guy that comes out of school after 1 year? How do you handle the adversity? Hey, dude, you come talk to me anytime you want. Come lean on me, because, I don't think you're ever going to face anything that I faced, how I faced it, but I got a lot of answers for you.
Will, last night, Lauri Markkanen provided a few answers, and we've been waiting a long time for that to happen. 24 points, and it's been since, I think, October that he scored 20 or more. What was different, and why has he struggled to the extent that he has, in your opinion?
Well, the first thing was, what was different was a lot of the baskets were easy. There wasn't a lot of resistance, from the Detroit Pistons in their defense. They're a team that's dealt with a lot of injuries. They're a team that has dealt with numerous lineups. You saw a lot of things going on with them that we've talked about as far as their defensive rotations were not there. They took a lot of quick, poor shots, which gave the Bulls the ability to get rebounds. They actually won the rebounding battle, get out on the fast break. Detroit's defense was never able to set up. But I also liked what I saw as far as Lowry's movement without the ball. He had a lot of points in the paint. He had a lot of catches on the move, stepping into his shot, not just standing on the perimeter waiting for the ball to come to him so he can shoot a three. Now, we don't know if that's going to continue because, like you said, it's been a while. And it's been a while, meaning it hadn't happened since the first game against the Charlotte Hornets when he dropped almost 35. But what we don't know is what is going on and where's that consistency. Mm-hmm. Because the one reason why I think we're critical, the fans are critical, because media day, they talked about their aspirations are the playoffs. And John Paxson said, for us to be good, Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine have to take the next step. And what we haven't seen is that on a consistent basis. Lauri struggled as well. And I don't want to say struggled, but maybe he wasn't looking to be Lauri in the preseason, because then he steps up in the first game of the season and has that unbelievable game. And we're all like, here we go. Even though they lost, you did see a lot of positives, as frustrating as that first loss was against Charlotte. But now the question is, how do we make that happen on a nightly basis? And how do we figure out how to let him and Zach have games like that on the same night so that this team can start piling up W's?
Well, we're out of time. We'll let you go. Just curious, will they have to choose between Markkanen and Zach LaVine? Will that decision come at some point here?
Well, it hasn't reached that point yet, but you got to think that they've had that discussion behind closed doors because they just haven't been able to do it on the floor together as of yet. But you just pray and hope that these guys figure it out. I know it's only been 15 games, right, but we expected different because of what we thought was a very, soft schedule. And it only gets harder as we get going. So, you hope something changes because we need better, we want better, and the fans deserve better.
Good stuff, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Great interview.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Take care.